Hi, I'm Linda.
And I'm Troy, and we are Wines, Pines, and Canines. Recently, Linda and I embarked on a 1-month trip. We traveled all the way to the American Northeast, and we spent 3 days traveling to get to the state of Maine.
And today's video is going to be all about firsts. So we tried boon-barreling for the first time, we traveled for the first time in a tropical storm, and we toured the southern coast of Maine. But what's not a first for us is this drive.
Not at all. Linda and I have been making some incarnation of this trip for close to 30 years between the deep south and the north of Maine.
So today we're going to also give you some travel tips. First, we're going to start with what areas to avoid and what routes work for us the best over these past few years.
Also, we're going to talk some about how long I actually drive every day of this trip.
And we're going to talk about if your GPS is saying it's 6 hours from point A to point B, what is truly the travel time? We are coming to you from our free boondocking site. This is actually going to be part of an upcoming video when we talk about our travels through New Hampshire and Vermont. But if you're interested to see how we got this site that includes 30 amp hookup and water for free, make sure you hit that subscribe button and tune in. Within the next few weeks we will have that video up. But right now we're going to talk more about Maine.
Right, and let's talk about how we got there. That brings us to another first for us. We had to make our way through New Hampshire, Vermont, and into Maine in the midst of Tropical Storm Elsa. It wasn't a lot of wind. Traffic moved slow because it was a monstrous amount of rain, and it really made setting up in a campground, getting level and all that mess, a real drag because, well, I took a complete soaking.
But the weather has turned. It is absolutely beautiful up here now. So,
well, you know, and that storm brought about another move for us. We had to go ahead and stay at a Cracker Barrel for something that we'd never really thought about doing. We thought about it, but we'd never done it. You had something else planned, right?
Yeah, I did. Originally, we were going to stay at a harvest house at a maple syrup farm in Vermont, but with that rain, the dirt roads to get into the maple syrup farm were really, really wet. We didn't want to end up having any kind of trouble, so we had to change up on the fly, and that's why we ended up at the Cracker Barrel. Okay, Troy, so it's our first time
in a Cracker Barrel.
That's right. We are boon-barreling for the first time. We are in Londonderry, New Hampshire.
Yeah.
So how easy was it, Troy, getting in here?
Absolutely easy. The parking lot's nice and access was pretty simple. We have a nice pull-through site, as it turns out. We are not completely off the truck, but we're jacked up just a little bit to level for the night. The people inside were great. We placed an order online. Picked it up 20 minutes later after we were done squaring away the camper for the night, and we're going to eat, and it's absolutely easy, and they were very gracious and nice.
Right now we're going to go ahead and enjoy dinner and enjoy our first night at a Cracker Barrel, and we'll let you know how it goes. Good morning. We are up and on the road again after our first night ever at a Cracker Barrel. Went really well. There were a few campers that pulled in after us, and there was one when we pulled in, but extremely quiet for the night. Not a lot of road noise, not a lot of traffic, not a lot of anything. So highly recommend, if you are in the area, Londonderry, New Hampshire. Recommend that Cracker Barrel. Right now we are on our way to Freeport, Maine, and we are in the middle though of Tropical Storm Elsa that is moving into the area. Troy just got in and he is a little wet. He was checking on a few things in the camper. But right now we're gonna go ahead and finish the drive up to Freeport. It's a couple hours, and it'll be a slow go, I'm thinking, today. We'll let you know where we're gonna stay for the night because storm will move out sometime this evening, and next week. That's what it feels like, is next week. But we're gonna ride it out in the GeoPro, so we'll let you guys know how it goes. Now we finally did reach the southern part of Maine, and for the most part it was a beautiful northern summer. And if you're looking to visit the southern coast of Maine, we have a few places that you need to make sure you put on your list. Now our first day started with a trip to Burundi Star Coffee in Portland. It was amazing coffee and Troy was blown away by the avocado toast. We spent the middle of the day visiting Cape Elizabeth and the Portland Headlight. We then stopped by a lesser-known lighthouse, the Spring Point Ledge Light. All of these were easily accessible and were within 30 minutes of Portland. We finished up the day with dinner at Luke's Lobster in Portland on the waterfront, and it was outstanding. It was a Saturday night in July, and we still had less than a 30-minute wait for an outside table.
The next morning, we took a ferry from the old waterfront port in Portland and headed to Peaks Island. The ferry is very reasonable to get there. It's $7 a person, and they charge you $4 for the dog. Once on the island, you can do a 4-mile loop if you'd like. You can book a golf cart in advance or rent a bike. Plus, there's plenty of restaurants and shops and things to do right there at the harbor. On the third day, we headed to BoothBay Harbor, about 90 minutes from Portland. This was a bit more traffic and very busy. To get away from the crowds, we crossed to the other side of the harbor and went to Barrett's Park to sit by the bay. But we did have some Maine popcorn before leaving.
And because we were staying in Freeport, we spent some time there doing some light shopping at the outlets and LL Bean. And we made sure to stop by my favorite bakery in the area, When Pigs Fly. And Troy tried another breakfast burrito at Isabella's Cafe in his quest for the ultimate.
This morning we stopped into Isabella's on Main Street in Freeport, Maine. We love breakfast burritos. When I say we, I mainly mean me. I've already eaten half of it. I probably should have held off on the throttle, but I couldn't do it. This is an exceptional breakfast burrito that takes a true traditional slant on the term breakfast burrito. I've got black beans, looks like marinated onions, obviously egg, peppers, and some rice actually. This is, I wouldn't say it's a top 5 burrito, but for me that's pretty high loft that I'll give it top 12.
Well, it is travel day, and it is time for travel tip number 1. Now, we have been doing this drive between the South and Maine for about 30 years now. So, if you have a GPS and you plug in somewhere starting in, like us, between North Carolina and Florida, and then you plug in the state of Maine, chances are it's going to be taking you one route. But there are certain areas you should avoid. Troy?
Those areas are everything between Washington, D.C. and Boston, Massachusetts.
Yes, we traveled that route for many years and it was not good. So, in the last 5 or 10 years, we have taken a couple of different routes, and this time we actually took a little bit different of a route. We take I-81 out of Virginia and we go north to Scranton, Pennsylvania. From there, we have been taking it over towards Hartford, Connecticut, up around Boston, Massachusetts, and into Maine. This time, though, we went from Scranton to Albany, then up into Vermont, over to New Hampshire, and to Maine. So travel tip number 2, know your limits.
Yeah, when it comes to me and driving, we've learned from experience. I like to get out real early, that's a fact, but by 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I'm off the road. There's no point to it. It just makes for a better travel and a better experience.
Yes, and that brings us into tip number 3. If you have a time that you know that fatigue is starting to set in, the last thing you want to do is be getting into a larger city, especially during traffic times. We have made this mistake in the past and it's not fun. So now we usually make sure that our overnight stay is right before a big city. That way we are fresh in the morning to go ahead and hit that traffic. So as Troy gets fuel, let's talk about the last tip. And that's how long are we actually on the road versus what my GPS says it'll take. Well, I've found that if the GPS says it's going to be 6 hours to get from point A to point B, I'll usually add 10 to 15% of travel time because we're pulling this thing behind us. And then I'll add in about an hour for stops for lunch and for getting fuel and just getting out to stretch our legs.
If you're going to be coming to the Freeport, Portland area, I'm going to highly recommend Cedar Haven Campground. It was our second time staying there and we just adore the place. It's only a few minutes from Freeport and it was the only scheduled campground on this part of the trip because we really wanted to be close to family.
Now originally though, when we got into Portland, we planned on staying in a municipal parking lot near the outlets. We had read online that you could stay there overnight, and so we were planning on riding out Tropical Storm Elsa there. However, I called, left a voicemail just to verify what I was reading online, but when we got to that parking lot, that was not very level, and we just couldn't see trying to level up in the pouring rain, and we still weren't even sure if we were allowed to stay there. So while we were trying to decide where to go, we got a call back and they informed us that they strongly discourage overnight parking and left it at that. So we decided between the rain and the leveling and the wording from the lady on the phone that we went ahead and just stayed the extra night at Cedar Haven. So if you have read online about that parking lot in Freeport and maybe you've stayed there and had no trouble, leave it in the comments down below. But if you haven't and you've read it, you might want to think of a backup plan before you do. Well, that about wraps up today's video. Now, in the future, we're going to have some more travel videos. We're going to be going through New Hampshire, Vermont, the Finger Lakes, and we'll see what other areas pop up along this month. And this video, we did stay at the campground for the majority of the time, but that was the last time that we have a scheduled campground stay. From here on out, it is boondocking, harvest house, and moochdocking. So if you'd like to see these upcoming videos, please remember to
like and subscribe.
And remember, Desi always wants you to hit that notification bell.